Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. For the people that are in the audience that are still awake, we're moving forward. I can't remember when we've had a meeting with so many people who wish to speak and drug out, so thank you. I'm going to take item number 27 next, if I can, Madam Clerk. 27 next. We have a out-of-town attorney that's charging us an awful lot of money, so this is where we're going. We're taking him next.
So for your public hearing, 6 o'clock public hearing.
It's a time certain item for 6 o'clock. Let's take that one.
Item 27 is adoption of an urgency ordinance or introduction of an ordinance for zone amendment, amending the zoning ordinance by adding Article 39, wireless communications facilities, satellite dish, and antenna standards to the current city zoning ordinance, as well as the Oceanside zoning ordinance in effect on May 8, 1985, repealing Section 3025, which was reception antennas and communication facilities, from the current zoning ordinance for implementation citywide, with the exception of the redevelopment area, and adoption of a resolution approving the local coastal program amendment and negative declaration establishing Article 39 as zoning regulations to be applied within the coastal zone. It's the telecommunications ordinance, and the city is the applicant.
Thank you very much. As the mayor, I'll open this public hearing and ask for disclosures, please. I'll start with you, Councilmember Feller.
Thank you. I've had contact with the public, many emails. I think we've all received the same ones, and as well as staff. And I think we had letters from vendors too. A couple of letters.
The public, staff, and I got a letter today from a legal firm.
The one that's going to sue us?
Yeah, the one that's going to sue us if we pass this deal.
Thank you. Same. This has been up in front of us in conversation in the past, plus this is a situation where I get a lot of feedback just walking around town. Staff, Telecommunications Commission, again, staff on all aspects of it, and correspondence from different outside firms, including the one that came in today. Thank you very much.
Yes, I've spoken to members of the public. I've received emails, phone calls, also spoken with staff. I did also receive the packet from Davis Wright and Tremaine, and I've had a chance to actually inquire of the city attorney about it, so I feel really good about what we're doing here today.
Public emails, obviously the same letters from vendors and telecommunications people, and a real long conversation with several of the ham operators to understand that portion of it too. So, and that's it.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, correspondence or petitions?
The same letter from the attorney representing T-Mobile, as well as emails that council members have received addressed to the City Council.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Hittleman, good evening, sir. How are you? Nice beard.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Different look here. And council members.
It just started tonight earlier, right?
Yeah, that's right. 5 o'clock shadow. Actually, we started this a year ago. We started this process a year ago, if you might remember, when the City Council directed us to update the Telecom ordinance and start an ad hoc committee comprised of 2 planning commissioners and 2 telecommunication committee members. Starting in February of this year, we did form that ad hoc committee, and we had Robert Ross, who's here tonight, Jimmy Knott, who's here tonight, and Jay Scribner and Tom Rosales as the ad hoc members. They worked very hard over the 6-month period that they had to work on the ordinance, but a lot of thanks also has to go to other people, and I'd just like to take an opportunity to thank a number of people before we get started. Our former Deputy City Attorney, Leslie Gallagher, was very worked very hard on this ordinance and actually wrote a bulk of it with input from our consultant and consulting attorney, Jonathan Kramer, who, as you alluded to, is here tonight to help us out. So we want to thank them very much. On staff, we had Michelle Skaggs-Lawrence, Michael Sherwood, Gary Kellison, Doug Edow, Sandra Jordovich, Ian Johnson, and Yvette Barajas work on the project also. We had a tremendous amount of input from the public. I think Holly Hargett and Sharon Newberry, our new telecommunication committee members, virtually at every single meeting. So I want to thank them for their input.
We'd like to get them back involved in the community and not be so quiet.
They were not shy, so I can tell you that. We had a lot of input from the ham radio operators, Mr. Fred Ashley and a number of people who are here tonight. Also industry reps, Daniel Goldman, Doug Munson, and Jamie Hall. So I'd like to really thank them. As I stated, we worked with the ad hoc committee from about February to May of 2010 to formulate this ordinance. The ordinance was written by all these parties. We all had input. We listened to everybody. And the purpose behind the ordinance is to establish development standards for wireless communication facilities and satellite dish antennas. Require all wireless communication facilities to be as unobtrusive as possible, and I'll show you some ways that we can achieve that. I'm sure you've seen them around town, but have some good examples of that. Allow wireless communication facilities to be constructed and operated in a responsible manner in conformance with all laws and regulations. The applicability, we do have some exempt facilities. If, for instance, if you have communication facilities in the railroad right-of-way for NCTD, those would be exempt from our ordinance. They're under the PUC's jurisdiction. Radio and television antennas and such antennas, citizen band antennas, CB radio antennas are exempt as long as they're under 36 feet in height in a residential zone. Amateur radio antennas within the height limit would be exempt, and I'll go into a little more detail of that later on. And then city antennas for our emergency operations, police, fire, and so forth are also exempt. A conditional use permit will be required for wireless facilities on parcels, private parcels in any zoning district. Again, amateur radio antennas that exceed the height limit for the zone, usually they're in a residential zone, will be required to get a CUP. I'll point this out a number of times, but right now, these type of antennas, when they're in a residential zone, can only be 12 feet tall. If they're above 12 feet, they have to get a CUP or a variance. So now with these standards, actually loosen it up and allow it up to 36 feet. So I think we're giving them a pretty good height advantage to start off. I know they want to go higher, but you'll see what one looks like in a residential zone. We do have an administrative CUP process for wireless facilities that are located on city-owned or controlled property. These are temporary cell-on-wheel facilities that are used sometimes by the industry. They're called COWs. And then also for facilities that are co-located on an existing antenna, they just have to go through the administrative CUP process. Certain findings will have to be made for each facility, that it is necessary, that it demonstrates a reasonable attempt to minimize standalone facilities. We want them to co-locate, and we want them to, in certain cases, go on industrial or commercial buildings where they're totally hidden behind a parapet. Prove a claim for gap coverage. We want them to show that they really need this facility, and then we're going to require a report to show that. Any additional height, again, will require CUP findings that the additional height is reasonably necessary for co-location. So if they're going to go up higher with a facility, we want to make sure that there are other users or companies that can go on that facility with that extra height, and that they need the height for their facility. And also we wanted to make a point that there are a lot of existing facilities out there, a lot of standalone facilities, and they can stay at their height if they exist at the effective date of this ordinance. So it wouldn't harm any that are there now. Now, if they did expire or came back in for a permit, we try to get them to improve their facility so it's more camouflaged and meets some of the standards, or if not all the standards within this ordinance.